Weapons is the movie from the director. It's only his second film.
Really?
Yes. Zach Krieger, who did the movie Barbarian, which I thought was excellent. If you've seen it, that movie is a ride. The ending gets a little over the top.
69.
And it gets almost like too over the top. Doesn't overstay its welcome. It's smart. It's about something. And my expectations were high, especially based on the trailers that dropped for Weapons. And what I'll say about the trailers, we got to keep this spoiler free. Okay? Because what happens in the second half of the movie, it is shocking, funny. I mean, you could see maybe parts of it coming. It's also the way it's told. So what you learn in the trailer, that happens in the first 5 minutes. 17 students from the class of, well, it's played by Julia Garner. She plays Justine Gandy. And all of her students but one disappear at 2:17 a.m. They go off into the night, never to be found. It's a mystery. It's months later. The school kind of was on hiatus. It reopens. Benedict Wong plays Andrew. He is the principal of the school. And it really begins at a PTA meeting, the community trying to deal with the fallout from what happened. There are grieving parents, and everyone is dealing with the fallout from this. It's a news story. That's literally the trailer is the first 5 minutes. After that, what the movie does that's very clever, it tells the story of the events through the eyes of different characters. We see Justine, the teacher, what she experienced. We see Archer, played by Josh Brolin, what he experiences as a father. We see Andrew, Benedict Wong, as the principal. We see James, played by Austin Abrams, as kind of a homeless, druggie, small-time criminal, drug addict, whatever. We see Alden Ehrenreich as Paul, a cop. And we see the POVs of these characters play out and how they experience events from a different point of view. And each one kind of adds to the story, building up to a climax we won't discuss. I was never bored. It's a slow burn, but I was never bored. It reaches, and I will say this, you're a fan of horror, Alan.
Yeah, I love horror.
Not really. It does a warning. It gets gory in a way you would never expect. And it's also from I think it's the buildup of the grief, the gore, the shock of where this all leads, that people were laughing. And I've heard other people say the same thing, that people were laughing because it's a release, because look, it is a parent's worst nightmare. It's the only thing. I fear something happening to my kids more than my own death. So it's a very deadly, dark, and serious topic. And the characters in the story, of course, are dealing with all of that, the grief of a missing child. And all of that, it's the weight of that just hangs over the whole film, the seriousness of it. So when all is revealed, it's kind of like a release and almost, in a way, funny in some ways.
Yeah.
So we won't
give away the ending, but in the midst of the most horrific thing happening are some of the funniest things happening.
Right.
and the mix of the two emotions, it was this weird feeling, and at the end of the movie that felt great in a way.
But also, there are things that some people are going to say, I've heard other people say, that's over the top. Look, this movie set up rules. This is how this universe works. I don't like magic in movies. I think magic is it's like we can just make stuff up. and it happens, right?
Yeah.
I like a movie that sets up rules and then follows their own rules. There
To
is
a
a
T.
rule,
To a T.
There is a rule. There are rules about how the fantastical events that occur in the movie, how they work, and this movie follows the rules. It doesn't break its own rules. It follows the rules, and those rules are revealed slowly. That's why I say slow burn. So it's a thriller becomes horror, and there's also real life horror behind it because missing children, that's a real life horror that people deal with all over the country. So I got to say, one of my favorite movies this year, if not one of the best horror films, if not the best horror film of the year. Barbarian was my favorite the year it came out 2 years ago ish. I love this. The performances, Josh Brolin as the grieving father who works in construction, Archer, he's fantastic. The relationships between everyone.
Even Silver Surfer was great in this movie.
Silver Surfer, Julia Garner is great in this movie. She's great. So strong recommend. One of my favorite movies of the year and one of the best horror movies, if not the best horror movie of the year. Can't really say best yet. We're coming up on October, but man, I loved every minute. And I'll see it again. Alan, what'd you think?
Yeah, I give it an 8.5, and I will never see this movie ever again.
I know why. We sat next to each other, and I'd look over at you when something gory would happen, and I'd go like, haha, he's got his hand over his eyes. And then it got to a point where I was doing this. I was going like this, like, oh my, like I even screamed in the theater at one point.
Yeah.
There's
a woman sitting in front of us. So we're at the IMAX here in Washington, D.C. There's a woman, every time a scary moment, a jump scare would happen, she would lean back in her chair and run right into my knees.
But I literally, there's a shock moment. I just went, ah! Yeah. I mean, I literally just went, ah! It's that good. So
let me tell you why I think I give me this 8.5. This movie reminds, and this is the third movie that I will say is smart. It has a smart script behind it. This movie reminded me a lot of Strange Darling. Strange Darling, if you saw it, it's 8 chapters, but you see each chapter out of order. So I think you start in the middle with the 4th chapter, then you jump to the 5th chapter, then back to the 3rd chapter. And what happens is that when you see the first chapter they present, you go down a certain path story-wise. And then they bring you the next chapter, and that throws the chapter off. It throws you into a different direction. And so now you're moving back and forth, wondering what this mystery is and how this mystery will pay off. Weapons does the same thing, because it starts with Julia Garner's character, the teacher whose class disappeared, and the town is thinking that she's behind it or she did something behind it. And you follow her story through a good part of the first act. And then you move to a different story, to the Josh Brolin story. And it takes you in a different direction. And then the next 2 directions feel like it has nothing to do with the story until the other stories come in and it ties it all together. And to me, that's why this movie is so smart, because it knows exactly what story to tell and to what information about the mystery it's going to reveal. That when you get to the final story, that it all pays off, and that everything you've seen up until that point stitches together and brings you to this final conclusion that is gory, horrific, and hilarious. So yeah, I have mad respect for the writer-director, Zach Krieger. Very effective movie. He got the emotions. He understood his tone. He understood the rules that the world he was creating, stuck by those rules, and gave us a very smart movie. And like I said, I'll never see this movie ever again.
Chris, Alan, how are you gentlemen? I hope I get a better review from you two, especially after that Silver Surfer debacle.
Well, we just gave it a great review, Julia.
Yeah.
So I hope you appreciate it. Yeah, I loved it. I'll see it again. I'll see it again for sure, because it's the thriller aspect. Yes, the horror gets much gory horror, and I did like that. I like that. It's over the top stuff. It's like
but there's the fun in seeing this movie for the first time, and
Yes.
And I can never have that again because I've already seen the movie.
I love seeing it also with an audience. A movie like this really works with an audience.
Yeah, and there's going to be stuff you're going to miss that you're going to catch that you missed the first time when you see it the second time. But I don't care about that.
Let's go to comments.